It was supposed to be a normal day on the set of the Kelly Clarkson show. Bright lights gleamed off polished floors. Cameras were checked and double-checked, and the audience chattered with that nervous excitement reserved for live television. The energy was contagious, the kind that promised laughs, surprises, and memorable celebrity moments. Yet beneath the surface, something was amiss, a tension that wasn't visible on camera, but lingered like a storm cloud waiting to break. Chris Hemsworth walked onto the set, his trademark grin in place, yet there was a stiffness in his shoulders, a flicker of unease in his eyes. He waved at the audience, a practiced gesture of charm and warmth, but those watching closely could sense an undercurrent. Kelly Clarkson, reviewing her notes moments before going live, paused. Something about the dynamic today felt different, unpredictable. Backstage, crew members exchanged uneasy glances. There were whispers, subtle signals, an extra furrowed brow here, a tense gesture there. The production team was aware that live television, even in its most controlled environments, is fragile. A single misstep, a poorly timed joke, or an offhand remark could ignite a chain reaction. No one could contain Dot as the show went live. The audience's applause filled the room, bright and enthusiastic. Chris began with the usual pleasantries, discussing his latest film, cracking jokes rehearsed 1,000 times over. Kelly responded with her trademark charm, laughing, interjecting playfully. But beneath the smiles, the tension was building. Words, innocuous on any other day, began to carry an edge, subtle at first, almost imperceptible. A comment meant to be humorous lingered longer than intended. Chris tilted his head, his smile faltering. Kelly responded with a sharper tone than usual, her words precise, measured, but unmistakably firm. Backstage, producers leaned in, whispers turning to concerned murmurs. The cameras captured every flicker of expression, the raised eyebrow, the tightened jaw, the pause before the next line. The audience, sensing a shift, murmured, a collective unease spreading through the studio. What began as banter quickly escalated. Chris's laughter sounded forced, Kelly's smiles tight. The air seemed to crackle with unspoken frustration. Every gesture, every glance, every word carried weight beyond the scripted lines. It was a collision of personalities under the unforgiving glare of live television. Then it happened. A remark, innocent to some but provocative in the moment, became the spark. Kelly's response was immediate, cutting, precise, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Chris's face tightened, his eyes betraying a mix of surprise and irritation. Backstage, staff froze, unsure how to intervene without escalating the situation further. The live audience leaned forward instinctively, sensing the drama unfolding before them. Within seconds, what should have been a 15-minute light-hearted interview descended into chaos. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every second of the tension, as if daring the production team to stop it. Staff quietly approached, signaling for a pause, but the momentum was unstoppable. The audience, at first confused, began to murmur, their excitement turning into apprehension. Producers acted swiftly. Decisions were made in moments, as they often are in live television crises. Kelly, maintaining her composure, gestured subtly to staff, while Chris, visibly frustrated, was guided off the stage. The interruption was unprecedented in action, rarely seen on daytime television, yet completely unavoidable in the circumstances. By the time Chris left the stage, the audience was stunned. Cameras lingered on Kelly, her composure intact, but her eyes betraying a flicker of disbelief. Behind the scenes, staff scrambled to regain control, to keep the show moving, to protect both the reputation of the program and the dignity of the guest. Social media, though unaware at that precise moment, would soon erupt with reactions that would dominate the day's headlines. In that moment, the world witnessed a rare glimpse behind the polished veneer of celebrity television. The carefully choreographed smiles, the rehearsed humor, the illusion of effortless charm, all gave way to a human, unfiltered clash. It was a reminder that live television, for all its glamour, is an unpredictable stage where even the most seasoned stars can collide, where tensions simmering behind the curtain can erupt in full view of millions. And as the audience processed what had just unfolded, the sense of anticipation shifted. Everyone, producers, crew, and viewers alike, was left with the same unspoken question. What happens next when the curtain rises and the storm has only just begun? The aftermath of that live confrontation was immediate and electric, though most of the world wouldn't see it for hours. Backstage, the tension didn't dissipate with Chris Hemsworth's exit. Crew members whispered hurriedly among themselves, trying to piece together what had gone wrong in real time. The audience, still in their seats, exchanged glances of confusion and disbelief. Social media would later capture snippets of the event, but behind the cameras, the reality was far more complicated than any 15-second clip could convey. The story didn't begin on that stage. Weeks before, subtle undercurrents had been shaping this collision. Chris Hemsworth, despite his easygoing public persona, had a reputation among insiders for being meticulous, even exacting, about interviews. Timing, phrasing, and the way questions were asked mattered. On the other hand, Kelly Clarkson had built her career on a combination of warmth, humor, and an unflinching honesty that sometimes left her guests exposed in ways they didn't anticipate. When two strong personalities converge under the pressures of live television, even the most trivial misunderstandings can escalate into public spectacles. Friends and former staff from both camps describe a peculiar kind of pre-show nervous energy. That morning, crew members noted Chris arriving slightly later than scheduled, reviewing his notes with laser focus, speaking quietly to his team about potential topics. Kelly, as she often does, was reviewing the script while also keeping an eye on audience engagement cues. Both were professionals at the top of their field, but professionalism, as the coming events would prove, does not inoculate against friction. As rehearsals proceeded, small signs of tension emerged. A misinterpreted joke in a pre-show run-through, a subtle disagreement about camera angles, a difference in understanding of what constituted a funny anecdote versus a sharp comment. These were all sparks in a room already electrically charged. Producers often recount that morning as a warning of what live television can do when personalities clash under pressure. Everything was fine until it wasn't, one insider would later remark. Meanwhile, fans on social media had already begun speculating before the cameras rolled. Cryptic posts from audience members hinted at a strange energy on set, unusual stillness in moments when laughter would normally break out. Entertainment blogs, always hungry for a narrative, began predicting that something noteworthy might occur. In hindsight, these digital breadcrumbs hinted at an inevitable confrontation, though no one could have predicted its intensity. The psychology of live television adds another layer. Experts explain that when humans are under observation, the stakes of each word and gesture are magnified. What might be a light-hearted tease in a private conversation can, under studio lights and broadcast cameras, be perceived as a personal attack. Add the adrenaline rush of being in front of a live audience and the pressure of millions watching online, and even the smallest tension can explode. Chris's history with interviews offers further context. Known for his charm, quick wit, and sometimes dry humor, he has occasionally clashed with hosts whose style differs from his own. Kelly's forthright approach, her willingness to challenge, to push for unfiltered answers, was a perfect storm waiting to happen. This chapter of their careers became a case study in personality dynamics, a reminder that public personas often mask complex interpersonal negotiations behind the scenes. Producers later admitted that moments before the cameras rolled, they had discussed potential flashpoints, A brief exchange between Chris and Kelly about a comedic anecdote raised eyebrows. Was it playful? Was it provocative? In a live environment, those questions carry weight. When the taping began, those unresolved questions quickly became answers. Uncomfortable, intense, and undeniably public. Even the set itself contributed to the tension. Live television sets are a mixture of chaos and precision, a place where multiple moving parts must operate in perfect harmony. Every cue, from camera pans to audience reaction shots, is choreographed. Yet that morning, the choreography could not account for the collision of two strong personalities. A single remark, delivered in a moment of exasperation or misunderstanding, would ignite the on-stage confrontation that viewers would later witness in fragments online. Behind the scenes, staff scrambled to maintain order. Assistants moved swiftly, producers whispered urgently, and security subtly repositioned. Everyone knew that once a conflict erupts on live television, controlling it becomes nearly impossible without drastic measures. And yet, even in the chaos, there was professionalism. No one panicked publicly, though internally, nerves were frayed, and the sense of impending drama was palpable. As social media quietly began to stir, the seeds of public reaction were already being sown. Fans who had been following Chris's promotional tour picked up on his unusually tense expressions during pre-show, rehearsal photos. Kelly's team noticed subtle changes in her demeanor, the brief moments when her usual warmth gave way to controlled intensity. These cues, imperceptible to the casual viewer, formed a puzzle that only later pieces together. This chapter of the story underscores the fragile balance of live television, where preparation meets unpredictability. Every comment, gesture, and facial expression carries amplified significance. When personalities as strong and public-facing as Chris Hemsworth and Kelly Clarkson converge, the result can be spectacular, not always in the way the audience expects, but in a manner that leaves an indelible mark on those watching and those working behind the scenes. By the time the show went live, the stage was set for the confrontation that would shock viewers. The tension, built over weeks and amplified by hours of preparation, reached a boiling point in the span of minutes. What followed would be remembered as a rare instance of live television exposed, where professionalism, celebrity, and human emotion collided in full view of the world. The cameras were rolling, the lights were bright, and the audience's applause echoed through the studio. On paper, everything appeared normal. Chris Hemsworth, with his usual charisma, greeted the audience, waving broadly and flashing a smile that had earned him millions of fans worldwide. Kelly Clarkson returned the greeting, with warmth, her signature humor and charm immediately putting people at ease. But beneath the polished veneer, the tension from backstage had carried on to the set, invisible yet palpable, like static in the air before a storm. The interview began with routine questions about Chris's latest blockbuster, his experiences on set, and a few light-hearted jokes. At first, Chris answered with practiced ease, sharing anecdotes that were both entertaining and polished. Kelly interjected, laughing, teasing, and occasionally challenging his answers with her well-known candor. Yet, as the conversation unfolded, subtle cracks began to appear. A joke that might have seemed harmless in rehearsal landed differently. Under the pressure of live cameras, Chris's smile flickered. Kelly's laughter took on a sharper edge. For those watching, the shift was almost imperceptible at first, but anyone attuned to live television could feel the change. Words, tone, and timing began to collide. Chris made a comment about the pressures of promoting a film, and Kelly responded with a quip intended to lighten the mood. The tone, however, was misinterpreted. What was meant to be playful felt pointed. Chris's brow furrowed. A pause stretched longer than usual. The audience, sensing the tension, murmured quietly. Then came the spark. A remark, casual in intent but sharp in delivery, broke the fragile balance. Kelly responded immediately, her voice firm, her words leaving little room for misinterpretation. Chris's expression shifted from confusion to irritation. Behind the cameras, producers and assistants exchanged tense glances, recognizing that a live incident was escalating fast. Crew members subtly leaned forward, ready to intervene if necessary, but cautious not to interrupt a show that, until this moment, was scripted down to the second. What followed was a rapid exchange, verbal yet loaded with emotion. Chris attempted to clarify his earlier comment, his tone measured but strained. Kelly's response was precise, almost surgical in its delivery, highlighting the clash between his humor and her insistence on control. For the audience, the confrontation appeared immediate and raw. For the production team, it was a calculus of urgency and crisis management. Every gesture mattered, the tilt of a head, a tightened jaw, a pointed hand, and the cameras captured it all in unflinching detail. Slow motion shots later revealed the subtle physical cues of tension. Chris, adjusting his jacket nervously, Kelly leaning slightly forward, her eyes narrowing in concentration. The audience, initially entertained, began to shift in their seats, a wave of anticipation and discomfort rippling through the crowd. Laughter faltered, smiles faded. Social media, though unaware at the precise moment, would later dissect each second frame by frame. Producers signaled discreetly to Kelly and Chris, indicating a pause might be necessary. But live television is not forgiving of hesitation. The energy in the room escalated, carried by adrenaline and the immediacy of being watched by millions. Chris, visibly frustrated, leaned slightly away from Kelly. She, maintaining her composure, held her ground, her responses cutting yet controlled. The contrast between public persona and private emotion became evident. Two professionals, each aware of their audience, each navigating the collision of humor, personality, and tension. Minutes stretched as the confrontation unfolded. Clips later would show the audience's reactions, hands clutched to mouths, widened eyes, subtle gasps, but behind the scenes, the real drama was orchestrated in real time. Assistants moved swiftly to the side, producers whispered urgently, and a sense of collective urgency filled the studio. The situation was now beyond the bounds of scripted control. The show teetered on the edge of an unprecedented live incident. Finally, the decision was made. Kelly gave a subtle signal, and staff moved to escort Chris from the stage. The actor's frustration was clear, his steps deliberate yet restrained. The audience, initially frozen in disbelief, erupted into murmurs and applause that was awkward, uncertain, caught between shock and curiosity. Cameras lingered on Kelly's composed expression, capturing her attempt to maintain professionalism amid chaos. Behind the scenes, staff exhaled collectively, knowing that the live broadcast had just delivered a spectacle that would dominate headlines. As Chris left the set, the energy in the studio shifted. The audience, now fully aware that they had witnessed something unusual, leaned forward, whispering and speculating. Kelly took a brief pause, regained her composure, and continued the segment, but the shadow of the confrontation lingered. Every laugh, every comment that followed was tempered by the memory of what had just occurred. In those few explosive minutes, the world saw a rare glimpse of the fragility behind celebrity television. The illusion of effortless charm, seamless humor, and controlled personality had been stripped away. Two professionals, each skilled in their craft, collided under the unrelenting scrutiny of live television. The result was more than a confrontation. It was a study in human tension, a reminder that beneath every smile is the possibility of conflict, and beneath every scripted line, the potential for drama. And while the cameras rolled on, capturing the continuation of the show, the incident would not fade quietly. Clips would circulate, social media would erupt, and public opinion would begin to form. But for those in the studio, in that exact moment, all that mattered was navigating the unfolding reality, an unfiltered collision of personalities that would become a defining moment in both their careers. As soon as Chris Hemsworth was escorted off the stage, the ripple effects of the confrontation began to spread far beyond the studio walls. Backstage, crew members exhaled collectively, a mix of relief and disbelief etched across their faces. Producers, still processing the live incident, hurriedly reviewed what had happened, assessing both immediate damage and the longer-term implications. Meanwhile, the audience, still buzzing with uncertainty, speculated in hushed tones about what they had just witnessed. But the real storm was only just beginning outside the studio. The world was about to weigh in. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation surfaced on social media. Short snippets, no longer than a few seconds, were shared across Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. The moment went viral almost instantly. Fans dissected every frame. Chris's furrowed brow, Kelly's controlled glare, the subtle gestures that betrayed mounting tension. Within hours, the hashtag HEMSWORTH Clarkson started trending. Memes, reactions, and commentary spread at an unprecedented pace. People who had not been watching the live broadcast suddenly felt as if they had a front-row seat to the drama. Entertainment outlets scrambled to cover the story. Headlines were urgent, sensational, and unavoidable. Chris Hemsworth kicked off Kelly Clarkson show. Leave TV shock. Celebrity confrontation exposed. Thor versus Kelly. What went wrong? Journalists reached out to insiders, seeking context and clarification. The narrative began to take shape, fueled by speculation, half-verified reports, and the natural curiosity of an audience captivated by celebrity conflict. Analysts and PR experts weighed in almost immediately. Many emphasized the delicate balancing act that celebrities must maintain on live television. A single misinterpreted joke, a misunderstood tone, or a subtle gesture can spark controversy in ways that are impossible to predict. The Hemsworth-Clarkson incident became a case study in these dynamics, two high-profile personalities navigating not only their own emotions, but also the expectations of millions watching in real time. Fans themselves became participants in the drama. Social media timelines were flooded with side-by-side comparisons of Chris's interviews and Kelly's hosting moments, dissecting style, tone, and personality clashes. Some defended Chris, arguing that his response was justified given Kelly's assertive remarks. Others sided with Kelly, applauding her composure and professionalism under pressure. Comment sections became battlegrounds of opinion, with hashtags and trending phrases amplifying every reaction. Meanwhile, the official responses were measured but pointed. Chris's publicist released a short statement acknowledging the incident without delving into specifics, emphasizing professionalism and the pressures of live television. Kelly Clarkson's team issued a similar statement, focusing on the unexpected nature of live broadcasts and the importance of maintaining a respectful environment. Yet even these carefully crafted messages only added fuel to the fire, as fans and media attempted to read between the lines, searching for hidden meaning or implied blame. Entertainment psychologists later analyzed the situation in depth, noted that live television is an unusually intense environment, magnifying even minor conflicts into events of public spectacle. The pressure of performance, the immediate feedback of audience reactions, and the constant awareness of social media amplification create a situation in which human emotion becomes a lightning rod. In other words, the incident was as much a product of the environment as it was of the personalities involved. The viral nature of the footage also highlighted how quickly public perception can form. Within hours, opinion polls and social media, sentiment analyses began charting the perceived winner of the confrontation. News shows replayed the clips in loops, discussing potential ramifications for both Chris and Kelly. Media outlets speculated on future collaborations, public appearances, and even personal relationships within Hollywood circles. Every angle was examined, debated, and disseminated at lightning speed. Behind the scenes, the production team worked tirelessly to control the narrative. They coordinated with PR representatives, drafted talking points for Kelly and Chris, and prepared for follow-up appearances or interviews. Every decision had to balance honesty with diplomacy, transparency with discretion. Even a misstep in framing the incident could escalate the situation further, drawing more attention and criticism. Ultimately, the incident became more than just a live television mishap. It became a cultural moment. It highlighted the precarious nature of celebrity, the scrutiny of social media, and the volatile intersection of personality, performance, and public expectation. Fans and media alike were reminded that for all the polish of televised appearances, behind every smile is a human being navigating the pressures of perception, reputation, and performance. And as the world reacted, as hashtags trended in news, segments aired, one thing became clear. The Hemsworth-Clarkson confrontation was not merely an isolated incident. It had become a reflection of modern celebrity culture, an unfiltered glimpse into the tension, expectation, and spectacle that define life in the public eye. The storm had passed the studio, but its echoes would reverberate across media, social platforms, and public discourse for days to come, leaving both Chris and Kelly to reckon with the consequences in the spotlight and in private in the days following the live confrontation. Both Chris Hemsworth and Kelly Clarkson faced a new reality. The world was watching not just their actions, but their responses, their statements, their every move. The incident had gone viral, dominating social media feeds, news cycles, and entertainment blogs. Clips were replayed endlessly, dissected frame by frame, debated in opinion pieces, and analyzed by experts. For both celebrities, navigating the fallout required precision, composure, and a careful understanding of the court of public opinion. Chris issued a measured statement through his publicist, emphasizing professionalism and respect. Live television can be unpredictable, he sighed, and I regret that moments from the show were misinterpreted. My intention was never to create tension or discomfort. The statement was succinct, careful, and calculated to maintain his image while acknowledging the incident. Kelly's team responded in kind, highlighting the pressures inherent in live broadcasts and reaffirming the importance of mutual respect on set. The statements were diplomatic, but the media quickly read between the lines, speculating about underlying tension and whether a full reconciliation had occurred. Meanwhile, fans continued to debate, posting commentary and creating analysis videos that compared every gesture, expression, and inflection from the original broadcast. Some defended Chris, pointing to his attempts at humor and the stress of promoting a blockbuster film. Others sided with Kelly, praising her composure, wit, and ability to maintain control during an unexpected confrontation. In many ways, the incident had become a mirror for audiences, an opportunity to examine human behavior under stress, the dynamics of celebrity culture, and the challenges of live performance. Public relations experts noted that both Chris and Kelly had handled the situation with remarkable restraint, despite the potential for lasting damage. They highlighted the importance of maintaining professionalism, issuing timely statements, and controlling the narrative without inflaming the situation further. The incident became a case study in crisis management, illustrating how high-profile individuals navigate the intersection of reputation, accountability, and public scrutiny. Beyond PR strategies and media analysis, the episode offered a glimpse into the human side of celebrity life. Even figures accustomed to constant attention are subject to miscommunication, stress, and emotional intensity. The clash between Chris and Kelly was not just about personalities. It was about the pressures of public expectation, the unpredictability of live performance, and the collision of two strong-willed professionals in an environment designed for perfection. Behind the scenes, conversations continued. Production teams and staff reflected on what could have been done differently, what warning signs might have been missed, and how to prevent similar incidents in the future. The incident became a learning moment, not only for the individuals involved, but for the wider entertainment industry, demonstrating that even meticulously planned shows are vulnerable to the unpredictability of human emotion. Ultimately, both Chris Hemsworth and Kelly Clarkson moved forward. Interviews, appearances, and promotions resumed, carefully framed to restore equilibrium. While the confrontation remained a topic of discussion for weeks, it became a defining example of how live television amplifies human dynamics and how celebrity conflicts, once private, can rapidly transform into global phenomena. The lesson was clear. In the world of live entertainment, control is often an illusion, and every interaction carries the weight of scrutiny. The incident underscored that behind the smiles, scripted jokes, and polished personas, there are human beings navigating pressure, expectation, and emotion in real time. Even the most composed individuals can face moments of tension and unpredictability, moments that reveal vulnerability, resilience, and the delicate balance required to maintain professionalism under the glare of the spotlight. And as the studio lights dimmed, the cameras were packed away, and the audience dispersed, the story lingered not as scandal for its own sake, but as a vivid reminder of the human drama that underpins every televised performance. In the end, the clash between Chris Hemsworth and Kelly Clarkson was more than a moment of conflict. It was a story of tension, personality, and the unflinching reality of life under the public eye, leaving audiences with an unforgettable glimpse behind the curtain.